Kirill Tereshin injected synthol into his biceps because no girl wanted to date him. Lack of attention in his life makes him go on a mission of creating what he calls a perfect body, and ironically becomes an internet sensation along the way.
There's more jelly in this man's body than there is in a fruit gusher.
He's like literally insane.
But with the big power comes big responsibility. At this point, Kirill has everything he ever wanted: money, girls, fame. But his health was thinner than ever, and despite all warnings from doctors, it seems that his hunger for fame was a drive that made him destroy his life even more. Kirill Tereshin was born on the 8th of August 1996 in Russia, Pyatigorsk, just in 23 days after his father dies. This is the exact moment where it all goes wrong. Because if we look at Kirill now, we can see that he's not very confident and he's constantly seeking validation from other people. That might be due to the lack of attention that he received in his early days, as he had no father, no friends, and his mom had to work at 4 jobs in the same time just to make sure that Kirill doesn't starve. What made Kirill take action, however, wasn't any of that. It was the fact that he was not getting any coochie. That actually might be because he's not the smartest person on earth, as you can see anytime he opens his mouth.
Professional, master по ММА, 1 round, knockout.
But Kirill thought it was because he was skinny. He then spends most of the time in the gym pumping those muscles.
My muscles are getting bigger.
The saddest thing is that he actually looked good back then. Even I would smash Kirill, but instead of keeping on working out, he decided to take steroids. That's still okay in my opinion, but Kirill is so obsessed with the idea of being big that he doesn't stop there, and soon switches steroids for synthol, which is an oil-like substance that bodybuilders use to make their biceps look more bulky. Kirill takes a couple of shots of that, but has no time to see the effect, as he has to go through a year of the Russian army, as every Russian male citizen. Couple of months in, he notices that his health is way worse than it used to be. Army dog, however, calms him down and says that it might be just a little flu. For a simple person like Kirill, that's enough, and he uses that as a proof that synthol is doing no harm to his body. That's why he proceeds to inject himself even more with the magical substance, and makes it his life goal to transform his body to perfect. In his mind, it sounds like all his problems are gonna go away. He will receive attention, he will be rich, everyone will love him. But soon Kirill runs out of money, as synthol isn't really cheap, so he decides to do the most degen thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
First of all, I began to inject vegetable oil. I boiled it in a saucepan.
Instead of synthol, he injects himself with olive oil and sunflower oil. Damn, at this point just use straight up motor oil. Actually, I wouldn't be really surprised if that really happened, since he injected up to 1 liter of liquids in just 1 day.
Около 100 шприцов.
Да.
За раз.
Да.
At this point, Kirill is pretty poor. He's still living with his mom in a small apartment. He's working as a waiter and makes around 15k rubles a month. At the time, it was around 300 USD, and it was just enough to pay for rent and food, but that's it. And after that, our young protagonist started to realize that with arms like his, he can achieve way bigger things than that. So he started recording little birthday videos. He would say whatever you want him to say just to make some money, and he would soon receive his brand name Ruki Bazuki, which means bazooka hands. More and more people would pay him to say funny stuff. He made a YouTube channel, he started posting pics of him on social media, and in no time he became a national freak of the Russian internet. Russian TV shows, ad campaigns, clothing brands, and basically everyone started sending him invitations left and right. As having Kirill appear anywhere immediately makes everyone turn their heads and let out a little chuckle. People loved him for how stupid his decision was, how funny he looks, and made him feel good about himself. But my guy was making good cash from all these brands reaching out to him. So, as you can imagine, a person who has always been overlooked, doesn't really have anyone to guide him through life, doesn't have any priorities set right, and is living in poverty from the start, will not be able to deal with this amount of attention all of a sudden. He cannot go from 0 to 100 this quickly. Kirill of course doesn't realize that yet, and he was living in a moment, spending money and thinking of the bright future on the horizon. But this is where he starts to see a problem. He understood that his fame can go away real quickly, as people tend to get bored of things pretty fast. And laughing at a freak gets old at some point. He could not live with the idea that this is peak of his career. Kirill tasted the attention and he got addicted to it. So as he saw it, the only way how to stay relevant is to get even freakier. He was invited to the show called Let 'Em Talk, which is a famous Russian talk show that is broadcasted at prime time on one of the biggest Russia's TV stations. Even my grandma was watching this show. So Kirill comes on this show with his eyebrows shaved, yellow hair, and he also had his nails done. For USA people, that might not be a big deal, but for Russia in 2018, it was very freaky and just screamed attention. Everyone was saying how wrong this situation with his arms and health is. Experts and normal people commented on it. For some reason, they also brought his mom on the show, and she was pretty shocked by his appearance as well. They even got his idol Romario dos Santos Alves, a Spanish bodybuilder that was also doing the same thing as Kirill, but he had a lot of health issues, so he jumped off and doesn't do steroids nor Synthol anymore. Part of the show was also to ask actual doctors to have a look at Kirill's health, as he probably never did it anyway. So before the show, he gave his blood for testing, and doctors were shocked by the result. They basically said that sooner or later, they will have to ampute his arms. Neurolog said that he has no reflexes in arms, and plastic surgeon took biopsy from his biceps, but couldn't find anything but oil. So in simpler terms, blood has very bad time reaching his muscles, and his arms are slowly dying. They turn red, then purple, and that means there is big deficit of blood in his arms. Due to absurd amount of oil in his arms, they get warm pretty quickly, and Kirill is not having the best time of his life when that happens. The whole point of this show was to try to convince Kirill to think about his actions and realize that he might actually die very soon. Of course, it was more about making a punching bag of him for the whole country so they can watch the show and feel good about themselves, but whatever. On this show, Kirill says that he wants to become an alien by putting even more implants inside of his body, coloring his eyes, hair removal, yada yada, which is an insane shift from his initial goal of getting a perfect nice body. He felt that attention is slowly decreasing and he got scared. The only way how he can be interesting to people is by being controversial, as he doesn't really have anything else to offer. Without his arms, he's irrelevant. All he can do now is make bigger and bigger fool out of himself for our entertainment. As time goes by, he injects even more Synthol into his biceps and reaches 60 cm circuit, which is kinda insane number considering he only weighed 60 kilos. In pounds it is, I don't know, I'm European, I don't know. Doctors kept on warning him that if he keeps on injecting himself with Synthol, it's just a matter of time when he dies, and that amputation is almost inevitable. But Kirill doesn't care. All he cares about is how to make himself more relevant. He's also invited to MMA fights, and those fights are just something else. His SpongeBob fake arms surely didn't give him extra strength, and as you can see, they limit him in a movement a lot. Sorry to break it down to you, Kirill, but you're not gonna be next McGregor. He goes on several fights, fighting random bizarre people, some bloggers, and for some reason this old guy who was choking his biceps, well, in one of those fights he actually got injured and had to go through a very dangerous surgery, where they pumped out a good amount of jelly. At the end of the surgery, he said that his nightmare is over, and that this whole biceps thing was just a big silly mistake he did as a youngster. Well, and you might think, good for him, he's reformed, he learned from his mistakes and won't ever do it again. Well,
Красивый и успешный.
as you can see, his muscles are even bigger now. He even put some acid up his lips, cheeks, and a little bit up his nose. And all that just to look like Squidward from that one episode. Why is he doing this again? Well, Timmy, calm down, let me tell you. He cannot live without attention. It's clear at this point that he has some mental disorder, complexes that have to be treated. Because this is mental. He then appeared on a slapping competition show against everyone beloved Dumpling, who slapped him so hard he went home after first slap. Well, no doubt, I feel like everyone could have guessed what's gonna happen. Well, and I can't really show this one here, but he also enlarged his genitals. There are even videos of him on certain sites doing certain things. So yeah, okay, whatever. Since then, Kirill probably realized that his life is empty, and being famous for his freaky appearance doesn't fulfill him anymore. I watched this 1 hour-long interview with him, and I must say one thing, he's a good guy. Through this whole time, he was taking care of his mom, sending her a good amount of money, making sure she's good, she calls her daily, but other than that, there is nothing to his life. He says he sits home, watches TV, plays games, and is overall very bored. He also has a Telegram channel where he posts pictures of him accompanied with females who are available, if you know what I mean. He shouts them out basically, they definitely do pay him, either by cash or they spend night with him, who knows. Recently he started some activities on his YouTube channel, for example this video, where he's trying to pick up girls. He's constantly asking them if they find him sexy, if he's cool, yada yada yada. Well, yeah, very confident person I must say. He claims he wants to get rid of those biceps, but understands that he's not relevant without them, so he delays this process as much as possible. And that's it. Patreon down below, bye bye.